So I'm sure you've seen on the news recently, especially if you live in LA or you're a Dodgers fan, that Shohei Ohtani's interpreter, it turns out, had stolen about $16 million from Ohtani to pay for gambling debts. So this story has been blowing up. It's all over the news. I was contacted by every single news media outlet. I was on Good Morning America, The Morning Show, CBS, NBC, CNN. It's been crazy. So everybody wants to know what really happened. Was Ohtani involved? Did he know that his interpreter was gambling, that he was paying his debts for him? Well, I'm going to break it down for you right now. My name is Diane Bass. I'm a federal criminal defense attorney, and I create videos like this to educate people about how completely crazy the federal criminal system is, and this case is definitely no different. So with this week's video, we're going to break down the Ohtani case and try and figure out what Ohtani knew, what he didn't know, what really happened. Was his interpreter the gambler? Was he the gambler? All of those things. So here is how this thing began. Back in 2021, Shohei Ohtani's interpreter, Ippei Mitsuhara, was introduced to an illegal bookmaker. He started placing bets with the bookmaker. It started out small, and over time, these bets grew and grew. So he started out in 2021 betting around $1,000 at a time, and over 2 years, he placed approximately 19,000 bets, and at the end, the bets were more along the lines of $100,000 each. He ended up paying this bookie $16 million. Okay, so where all of this gets totally crazy, though, is that the wire transfers to pay the money to the bookie came from the account of Shohei Ohtani. So they said Shohei Ohtani. So the bookmaker was like, wow, Shohei Ohtani is my client. Because when you're betting in a system like this, you just use an ID number. No names are used. So the big thing that everybody wants to know is, was he betting on baseball? Because if he was, that would be a huge thing. The MLB is involved, but they would be involved even more. He was not betting on baseball. He was betting on soccer, basketball, and football, but mostly soccer, never baseball. So initially, reporters got information. They thought that Ohtani was the one who was betting with the bookie. But as the investigation grew and grew, it turns out that Shohei Ohtani's interpreter was actually stealing money from his best friend, Shohei Ohtani. He had control of his bank account, and he was using his bank account to wire money to this bookie. So this investigation by the journalists turned into what they thought was a story about Ohtani betting on baseball and violating the MLB rules and potentially getting fired, turned into a story about Shohei Ohtani's interpreter actually stealing $16 million from him. So what just happened last week was the feds actually filed a complaint against the interpreter, charging him with bank fraud to the tune of the $16 million. They investigated this case very quickly, much more quickly than usual, because it is such a big story and everybody wanted to know what was going on. They went through all of the transactions, all of the bank transfers, and they determined that Ohtani knew nothing and that Ippei Mitsuhara actually stole $16 million. So they've charged him with bank fraud. He self-surrendered last Friday and was released on a $25,000 signature bond, which is basically just a promise to appear. And his next court date, I believe, is May 9th, where he will meet with the magistrate judge and he will enter a plea of not guilty. But he is in the process of working out a plea deal with the feds as we speak. So ultimately in this case, the interpreter is the one who has been charged. It is common knowledge that the bookie was already under investigation, and that's kind of how this whole thing spun out of control. So one investigation led to another, and of course, great investigating by some of the reporters out there, particularly Tisha Thompson from ESPN. She's a rock star, and that's where we are. So here are the major takeaways from this. Number one is the interpreter was very smart. He hired an attorney immediately, and so his attorney is in the process of negotiating a deal, and that is why the interpreter was able to walk out of the marshal's custody on Friday evening after just signing a signature bond. That would not have happened if he had not reached out and had not contacted them first. The second takeaway, in my opinion, is that gambling is a serious addiction. And if you think about, he made 19,000 bets with this bookie. That's some serious stuff. So anybody who has maybe an inkling to go to Vegas, maybe think about it twice. So this case has just started. The next thing that we will see in this case probably is a plea agreement. and then the interpreter is going to go in, plead guilty, and then usually about 10 weeks later he would be sentenced. So it will be interesting to see how much time he gets. There are all kinds of elements at play, not just the money, but the abuse of the position of trust, the huge financial loss. So it will be really interesting to see. We will keep you posted on what's happening with the case. So if you found this content interesting, please check out my other videos on my channel or my website. And if you know somebody who is under investigation for a federal crime or who's been charged, have them call my office and schedule a consultation so I can give them all of their options.